And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis. Next to me, as always, my beautiful co-host Laraib, as we are here to break down the conference championship weekend of the 2024-2025 NFL season, where we have our Super Bowl set, Laraib. It is the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. But we are here to break down both those conference championship games, what went wrong for the losing teams, what went right for the champions. And first time since we've been filming, Rob, I think we both picked the same conference champions and we're both right. So we'll get into some of that interesting stuff. And then some other news around the league, coaching stuff, things like that, that we think is very interesting and at least pertains to this episode. Before we start, Rob, how you doing? Did you like football this weekend or what?
It was a great week. The NFC side really wasn't too entertaining, especially in that second half. But the AFC, every single year, it will be fireworks no matter who wins or loses. But let's kick it off with that NFC Championship, Lewis. You and I both had the Eagles winning that game, and they won it handily, just destroying the Commanders, really, who honestly beat themselves. Three turnovers, which led to three touchdowns, and then a late interception in garbage time for Jaden Daniels. But as well as Jaden Daniels was playing, his offense said, "No, you are not going to win this game." Just fumble after fumble after fumble, holding him back. And they really couldn't get much going in the second half. And it all comes down to trench play, right? That's the football these days. Your trenches, and the Eagles' trenches just dominated both sides.
Yeah, I think a lot of the analysis of this game got so caught up in the two quarterbacks. And, rightfully so. It's the most important position in football that we just didn't really discuss. And I know at least I know you thought more of Jalen Hurts than I would say the public going into the game. But definitely the consensus was like, if the Eagles are going to win this, it's based off their talent. And I'll give credit where credit's due, Rob. Jalen Hurts played a B plus game. I will say it's the best performance he's ever put up in a playoff game in a win. I'll say that. Obviously, the Super Bowl was incredible that he had against the Chiefs 2 years ago, but this game was so much. I mean, it was just a credit to this Eagles front office, to this coaching staff that they assembled. Got to give credit where credit's due to my man Nick Sirianni. Not a huge fan. I've never really have been. His demeanor kind of, and the way he talks to the media, just not exactly what I want in a football coach. But he is a wizard at assembling these just all-star staffs. I love Kellen Moore. And Vic Fangio is obviously an experienced defensive coordinator who brought a lot to this defense and how they, turned around from last season, Laura. And getting into this matchup specifically, what they were able to do, forcing turnovers. I mean, I wasn't able to watch a lot of this game, but from what you were telling me and from what I watched afterwards, the Commanders were moving the ball. It was just this bend, don't break defense, these long 18, 20 play drives almost that the Commanders had to go on just to sniff the red zone, settling for three, forcing the Commanders into tough spots. And eventually, once you go on these long drives, you can't break a play like we saw the Eagles on their first play, then you're just going to break a team's will. It just, you're going to break them out of their tendencies. They're going to be forced to do a lot of things they don't want to do. And this was just an ultimate game plan from the Eagles. A ton of credit to them. I wanted to ask you, Laura, if you were Dan Quinn in this Commanders coaching staff, and I said, what's the number one thing we can't let happen in this game? What have you had said beforehand?
Don't let 2-6 bust one open on the first play of the game.
And that's exactly what happened. I mean, on the first play of the game is just incredible. Like there's something to be like, oh man, we had a great game plan, but Saquon beat us. Throw your hands up. A 6-yard burst on the first play. I mean, that's like you did all this studying for a test. You put all the work in, you grinded, and then you turn in the test and your buddy's like, oh, by the way, there was a back on it. And you had no idea. I mean, woefully unprepared. They just got smacked in the face from the first jump. And at that point, it was over. The sledgehammer was thrown down. This Eagles offensive line just mauled this Commanders team. And, losing Daron Payne was huge for the Commanders. Sam Cosmi as well in the interior. We brought that up in our analysis of the matchup. They just dominated both lines of scrimmage. Commanders weren't able to run the ball successfully, and the Eagles were. And hey, that's January football in the playoffs in Philadelphia. So, in terms of that, I think, this is a reason why we both picked the Eagles. I did more reluctantly than you. You definitely got the spread and the score closer than what it was. It was still a 21-point drubbing, 55 points from the Eagles. But wow, I mean, not a competitive game. What are some other big things from this matchup that you think that I don't know that you wanted to highlight?
It has to be the Eagles' ability to get pressure with only four guys. Now, Patrick Mahomes has only lost one Super Bowl, and I predicted that Super Bowl correctly because of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense and their ability to get pressure with four guys.
Are
And
you? What
we'll
are you saying
highlight that
here?
matchup
Okay,
next
okay,
week. But
okay.
that's a huge thing that stands out for me for this Eagles team. When you have your nickel cornerback who can play really well, when your two outside guys can also play very well at that position, and you get pressure with four guys, that's how you dominate teams and win playoff games by more than 3 touchdowns. That really impressed me. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis just wrecking games. Jalen Carter, who I mentioned was going to be my Super Bowl MVP, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, it's going to be on the backs of him and just the outstanding run he's had this
Saquon
postseason.
Barkley's pretty good too. But I see what you mean. Defensive player. I said it. I think Jalen Carter is the best defensive player in the league. I think he cemented that. He did, have some off the field issues. There's a legitimate reason he slipped, but the Eagles trusting in the veterans they had in the locker room, trusting in the infrastructure that they've built to support a guy with maybe some off the field baggage, and they've really empowered him to put him in a position to succeed. And that's what he's doing at the highest level. I want to talk Commanders now because we're going to have a lot of time to talk about the Eagles in the next 2 weeks. From the Commanders' point of view, we both did not see this team not only making the NFC Championship, not really making the playoffs. I like Jaden Daniels as an LSU fan, but I didn't know going into pro with the frame, with just the different levels of athletes in the pros, how he'd hold up. And this roster, we saw last year, they were the worst defense in the NFL by far. But then to turn around, new coaching staff, new ownership group, new quarterback, all these new veterans, these players, obviously their season is a success, Laraib. But what do you find most remarkable about this Commanders season?
It has to be Jaden Daniels. I mean, that's the most obvious one, and it is the greatest point that, like you mentioned, everything from him in college translating to the NFL at this level. I think this is unquestionably the greatest season ever by a rookie. We've had rookie quarterbacks go to NFC championships before, but this is a guy putting on the Superman cape and saying, "This is me just doing it." And that was just outstanding and incredible to see. Now, what the Commanders have to do after this moment is capitalize on having a young rookie quarterback on his rookie deal and building that team around him right now. Because you'll see this a lot where teams will go to NFC Championship and they think, or not just NFC Championship, but championships in general, and they think, all right, we have a good roster, we're just going to roll it back next year. That is not how things work in the NFL, especially when you have a guy of this caliber, when in 3 or 4 years you're going to sign him to what is probably going to be almost $1 billion deal at that point in the NFL down the road. I mean, that's crazy to think about, but
Billion.
that's probably how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But this is not for the normal NFL team. When you don't have Patrick Mahomes, a great equalizer, you're not an organization like the Ravens who build great rosters. You have to be able to capitalize on your quarterback when he's young, when he's on that rookie deal. You look at a team like the Cowboys who have had these great rosters, great expectations. Then you pay Dak Prescott, and every single year their roster is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. You look at the Bengals. You pay Joe Burrow. You go to Super Bowl in his second year. You pay Joe Burrow, and then that roster slowly you start losing guys year after year after year. In the NFL, there is not a longevity in having a great roster. A lot of people think where the Chiefs, you have Mahomes, the great, equalizer for that team, but it's just not like that for everyone else. It's not like Brady, where you have these 1 in a million guys come in and change your roster and, just change your entire team, and legacy wise. This doesn't always come around. Now, Jaden Daniels has that ability to be one of those guys, but realistically speaking, this window is going to be short. It's going to be really small, and you have to capitalize on it right now.
Yeah, I agree. And he has two big things working in his favor. And you highlighted on the first one is just this rookie scale contract and this new ownership group that is aggressive. Josh Harris and this group, we've seen that they are putting all their chips in. And what we've seen with Jaden Daniels elevating this roster that, I talked about, we did not expect a lot out of. And you even alluded to most rookie quarterbacks who were in the NFC Championship or in a championship game in general have gotten there by the strength of their defense. It wasn't really them. He was the offensive engine for this Commanders team all season long. He was the one. He was the reason the running game was successful. The passing game, obviously, getting all of these guys. I mean, besides Terry McLaurin, not a ton of skill or a lot of talent at the skill positions. And what he was able to do with this roster, it just gives you reason to say going forward, if we just surround him with better talent. And honestly, seeing what he did with this level of skill player, I think the Commanders need to go in the Eagles route. Defensive line, offensive line, defensive line, offensive line. Because you know what Jaden, the ceiling he can bring you by himself. Look at the Chiefs. They got rid of Tyreek Hill and they got, Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis. They paid Chris Jones. They shored up their defensive and offensive front. And now they can have sustained success because they know Patrick Mahomes as an offensive engine will elevate all the players around him. That is why these teams who have these game managing quarterbacks who have just, succeeded with these awesome rosters end up failing because when you pay that quarterback, you realize that it wasn't him. It was the sum of his parts that elevated him. Jaden Daniels is an escalator. He brings everyone up with him. So that is a huge thing working in his favor. And he's in the NFC. And let's face it, Laraib, how many superstar quarterbacks are in this conference? You can say Jalen Hurts is starting to, move some heads. This Eagles roster is insanely talented. They have to try to get guys like Devontae Smith the ball because they just have so many weapons. It's like, oh, well, we need to make sure, a Heisman winning $40 million would be a wide receiver one on like 20 teams. We need to make sure he gets to impact the game. So in this NFC, especially in this NFC East, where we'll get to the Cowboys and their coaching decision, but the Giants are floundering. Obviously, the Eagles are going to be a big benchmark for this Commanders team going forward. But, who are the young rising quarterbacks who are, peers of Jaden? I'd like to think Caleb is now with Ben Johnson and Chicago shoring that up, but there's no definite guy there for Jaden. So, all in all, I think that he has a lot of good things going for him right now, and the Commanders are definitely set up for success.
Yeah, but let's quickly pivot on over to the AFC side and the Bills. Just another year, another disappointment. They lose to the Chiefs, and what a lot of people are saying is a rigged game. Oh, the refs were in on it, or just everything was in the favor of the Chiefs. But I think the Bills got extremely lucky in this game. Josh, in a game where they actually had 0 turnovers, Josh Allen had 2 dropped interceptions. You talk about the fumbling issues that they got back. They won the turnover battle in this game, and they still ended up losing. Josh Allen with the ball, down 3, plenty of time left in the game with 3 timeouts, and they simply couldn't get it done. And so just another tough break for them. 4th loss to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Just another rough way to go for them.
Yeah, I mean, from Buffalo's perspective, it's just what more and you could just tell off the emotion of Josh Allen at the end of it. It was just like what else can I do? And obviously, there's things we can nitpick. Some of the play calling from Joe Brady and then, Sean McDermott in general down the stretch was just kind of confusing. And there were some breaks that didn't go their way, but then again, in a game where there's 5 fumbles and the Bills recover all 5, and you tie the turnover margin on the road, you rush. I mean, all the stats are pretty much identical between these two teams. The Bills have proven that they are the closest team to the Chiefs in the AFC year after year. These are always one-score games. They always come down to the end. The difference is coaching and quarterback, and they're just never going to get over the hump. How can you possibly rationalize getting rid of Sean McDermott? Because is he that elite level coach? Is he? Yeah, I think we both see him as an A minus B plus head coach in the NFL. But you look at his stats, Laura, since he's joined the league in 2017, he is the second best record in the NFL. Better than Sean McVay. They entered the same year. A better record than some of his other peers, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, obviously gone for 2 years, but he's proven that he can have successful winning teams. And is it just as simple as there's always this roadblock in Kansas City that's forbidding us from going further? Yes, that is a possibility, but what more can they do? They do get too conservative at times. And even all these 4th and 1, tush push, where it's so predictable that the Chiefs called it every single time it's a 4th down and 1. They're going to try to go over the left guard no matter what. And it was working for them. And there was that debatable call and I think it was the early 4th quarter where it looks like he gets it. The line judges are confused and it sparks a whole debate online. The Chiefs, all the refs, ultimately, the Chiefs still went down the entire field, scored a touchdown. Bills responded, and then the Chiefs kicked a field goal, and the Bills couldn't respond. It's just the situational football that the Chiefs have perfected. And the Bills, I mean, I can't take a shot at the Bills right now because they are giving the Chiefs their best punch. But it's the fact that the game was in Kansas City. You could have taken care of a few of those games in the regular season that didn't go your way. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs lost 2 games all year. What are you going to do about that? And including you were one of their losses. So you think you've done so much in your power to tilt the odds in your favor, but ultimately it's just 2 elite franchises. One is just a step above the other.
Yeah, and this I've seen a lot of comparisons to when the Golden State Warriors would play the Rockets in the NBA, and James Harden, he might have been the best player in a couple of those series against the Warriors, but he just could not put that cape on enough times in those games to carry his team, and that's unfortunately what it's been like for Josh Allen. You can't say he played bad. He played an outstanding game, did what he needed to do. But when the game was on the line and they needed to get a first down, he didn't get it. And on the other side is Patrick Mahomes with 2 minutes left. They need to get a first down to milk the game out, and he gets it. That's just what it is. So another unfortunate loss for the Bills. I feel like we'll be saying this for many years to come. But the Chiefs on their way to their 3rd straight Super Bowl.
And let's stick here for a second. I wanted to ask you. We got 4 minutes left. I'll just say it right now. We'll talk about the coaching other time. We have a lot of time to talk about that. For the Bills going forward, what exactly is the pivot for them? How do you get to, because they're going to keep winning their division. That's not the problem. Josh Allen is playing at the peak of his powers. How do you get, I mean, do you just go to church and pray that someone takes out the Chiefs before they get to that round? I mean, I think what might be working best in the Bills' favor is finally the AFC West is starting to wake up. The Chargers are ascending, the Broncos are ascending, and now the Raiders with Pete Carroll. Hopefully, this is a sign of good things to come, stability in that organization. That might be your best bet if you're the Bills, because your division is crumbling. The Jets and the Dolphins are directionless. The Patriots, maybe with Vrabel, become a little bit more of a challenge, but that still might be a year or 2 in the future. But if you're simply just, if the solution is, I hope someone else beats them, what else can you do?
I mean, I honestly don't know. You can look back at Mahomes has 20-3 in the playoffs, and his three losses, two of them have come from Tom Brady, the greatest football player of all time. And the other one was a game against the Cincinnati Bengals where Patrick Mahomes, quite frankly, was banged up in that one. Possibly had a concussion.
Oh, that second
Um,
half was unlike any Mahomes half I've ever seen in my life.
Exactly. And I mean, all I can say is, just keep on building your roster, right? We mentioned earlier when you start paying your quarterbacks, those rosters start to deteriorate. Josh Allen and his huge contract. We'll see what this Bills team tries to do. Keep on building that defense. Kyer Elam and DeMar Hamlin have got to go after a performance like this. The Chiefs scoring 30 points for maybe the second time this season. And
Well,
so
that was the thing is they had this whole roster overhaul, and even me and you before the year were doubting the Bills, doubting their overall talent, doubting, but they have the coaching staff, they have Josh Allen. That alone is going to put you in a position to always be in this spot to play the Chiefs. But you just need to overhaul. I mean, the defensive line, I feel like, is where it needs to be. Offensive line was awesome this year. Do they need to lean more into the running game? Is it just as simple as Josh Allen? You had the ball with 2 minutes left, and you know, incomplete first down, incomplete second down, short completion third down, 4th and 5, and you just got out coached, outsmarted by Spagnuolo in that defense. It ultimately just comes down to situational awareness and how many times we're going to keep going down this road. The Bills' best bet, you got to catch the Chiefs in Buffalo, but even then, last year they couldn't get it done. So it's a lot harder of a conversation to have with this Bills perspective than it is Commanders. Commanders, there's so much forward, there's so much youthfulness, there's a lot to build on. With the Bills, it's just you have to try to maintain. You have the quarterback. You have Josh Allen, who is a superhero. It might be but there's not a coach that I'd feel comfortable replacing McDermott with. So it's just you have to roll back on your laurels and just say one of these times we got to beat them. One of them.
otherwise, you just keep on banging your head on the wall and expect for something else to happen. But we'll see next season what happens in this AFC, Lewis. But we are ready for the Super Bowl. We'll have a lot of guests on for you guys next week. If you want to come on, if you want to give us your take on why the Bills or what the Bills need to do, on what the Commanders need to do, feel free to reach out to one of us. And come on the First and Goal before the Super Bowl. Of course, we're gonna have all of our best bets, our huge storylines, and have all that for you guys next week.
Yeah, jam-packed week coming up. Make sure y'all are letting us know what y'all want to see. A ton of Chiefs, a ton of Eagles. But Laraib, anything else you want to say before we get out of here today?
No, I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.